Hey everyone, welcome to BBTV. Welcome to the BBTV show. As you know, we are welcoming the wonderful Carla Crimm, which is Changing 56 on YouTube. She is one of our fellow WLSers, and we are so excited to have her tonight and kind of pick her brain a little bit, talk about her journey, talk about where she is today. And so I'm very excited to have you. So how are you, Carla?
I am good. I am good. I'm excited to be here. I'm
Yay.
excited to share my journey.
I'm so excited that you're here. So let me just take a moment to explain a lot of the things that are happening with the Hangouts on Air lately. So all of you know, there are a few applications that we have to run while we do our Hangouts live these days because it seems that Google has gotten very clever and not letting people comment while we record. So there is a banner that comes up on the screen as you can see us now, and you can click on that. It will open a separate window. Not sure how that's appearing on everyone's devices such as iPads and iPhones. I just can only guide you on the like maybe laptop if you're on your computer, which is very rare that that happens. But you'll have a new screen that actually comes up and you can actually join the conversation. You can subscribe to Carla's channel. You can subscribe to our channel and so on and so forth. So just kind of want to open everyone up with that. We also want to let you know that if you cannot use those applications, okay, you can instant message Carla on her Facebook or instant message me on my Facebook so that we make sure that we don't miss anyone that has some questions for Carla. So let's get right to it. And happy holidays, everybody. I've got my little leopard hat on. Sorry, I'm a little fuzzy. My connection seems to be a little weak sometimes when I record from my laptop. So you'll have to bear with me. So Carla, tell us how are you these days? And you know, give us a little background on your story and what surgery you decided to have and so on and so forth. So.
Okay, I'm actually, as far as lost surgery goes, doing fairly well. I began my journey in September of 2011, and at that time, I had to start with my primary care physician and get approval from the insurance, and then I started like a 6 month, documentation. I actually had gastric bypass on June the 12th, June the 18th, 2012. So from there, I mean, a lot of people have followed me and have seen my videos, but I'm sure there are some people that really don't know my journey. So when I started, I was probably documented weight 221.
Okay, and how
I was
tall are you?
probably as high as like 235. Um, but I had like 5 or 6 comorbidities: diabetic, sleep apnea, heart disease. I have liver disease. I have kidney issues. So I had, the whole gamut of comorbidities that really just kicked in my approval. So that's where I started. Where I am today, where I've been, I saw 100% loss of my um, overweight. 100% of my excess weight I lost because I
Woohoo.
lost over 100 pounds. The lowest I saw was 113, which for me at 59 was way too small.
And
And
how
people
tall
would
are
tell
you?
I'm 5'3".
Oh, okay, me
Five.
too. Hey.
So, and I think my one point, and I know that you have this issue too, the doctors really do not tell you about the regain. They tell you how to do this and how to eat, and you're going to lose all this weight, and if you follow everything, you're going to do well. Well, I did. I was great for like 2 full years, and then in the past year, but I can't blame it all on regain per se. Um, I'm having some other issues going on, and I'll go into that at some point. But I had like a steroid shot, and I gained 10 pounds just like that. And I also had to go back on insulin and heart
Mhm.
meds because I had another stent put in last year. So all of those medications within their self, plus just what is regain and is normal. And when you ask the doctors about it now, after you're 3, 4 years out, which about 3.5 years out, they say, yeah, that's normal. You're right where you want to be. My goal weight initially was 130, and I thought I'll never reach that. I would be happy if I got to 150. Well, like I said, I was 113. Today, 135.
Wow, I would love to be 135. I'm just saying. But you know what? I'm glad that you kind of shared all that in the beginning
My
because
my my happy place. My happy place is about 125. So if I could lose, and if I started exercising again, and I've let, like everybody else, I've let a few carbs in, but I still don't eat bread, pasta, rice, sugar, no sodas, all those things I don't drink when I eat. I mean, I'm pretty good at following the weight loss surgery rules.
yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned a lot of the stuff, a lot of the comorbids though, and a lot of the regain in the beginning, because one thing I always try to say so far since we've started the show is that a lot of people, I think as well, are under the impression that when you do go through this process and when you get to goal or you're trying to get there, because I never personally got there, but that you honestly feel that once you get to a healthy place, if you will, that your comorbids will just disappear. Do you know what I mean? Like completely. I think a lot of, they make us, I feel like they share or they, they have us believing that possibly our comorbids will disappear completely. And I think all of us down the road, especially like I shared that with the Keisha on our premiere show, was that I think it's about year 3, you know what I mean? When you really start to realize how your life will, unfold from that point, because you're out of the honeymoon stage, you're kind of into the easing, into the lifestyle stage. And depending on whether you focused on kind of moving into the plastics area, or maybe you've had a little regain like we're talking about, you know what I mean? And you're starting to trying to figure out how did it happen or what did I do wrong? I feel like, why don't you share with some of us, like, when did those comorbids, set back in, even though you're at such a low weight? You know what I mean? When did you start to really feel like, oh no,
Well, basically, my doctors, all of them, my primary care physician, my cardiologist, my bariatric surgeon, all have told me I would not be here today had I not had the surgery. My cardiologist tried to get me to have the surgery 5 years before I had it, but like you're taking care of your dad. I was taking care of my mother at that time, so I couldn't do it. But my comorbids, when I came out of surgery, my bariatric surgeon took me off of everything: insulin, oral meds, heart meds, everything. Cold turkey, I was off of them, and all of my numbers were good for about 18 months. When I hit that 18-month point, my diabetes came back with a vengeance. And like I said,
right.
and at that point, I was not eating anything I wasn't supposed to. No sugar, no white stuff. No, I was following the letter of the law because my health was so much better. I was not willing to compromise at all. And I really beat myself up until I talked to several nutritionists and dietitians and doctors, and they said, look, there's nothing that you could have done about this. Part of it's heredity, part of it was I was a diabetic for 20 years before, so that was a lot of it. And then like about 3 months later, I started having chest pains, went in to the ER. Long story, my cardiologist came in, put another stent in, and he's Greek, and he got right in my face and he said, don't you ever come off of those medicines again. I don't care for any reason. If you're going to have a tooth pulled, to the dentist, whatever, they need to call me before you come off of any of those medications.
Wow, I'm so glad, because I feel like as well that sometimes when we feel like if we're at just a certain weight, you know what I mean? Like just that you're at a healthy weight, because I think a lot of people just don't realize that sometimes when diabetes and such as, because my dad has heart disease as well, diabetes is the culprit of that. He now has liver disease as well. That and I think age plays a little bit of a part in it, but I feel like once that sort of, puts you at risk of developing those things, that it's kind of, all you can do is try to manage, as it comes back. And like you said, I'm so happy that you shared that it did come back even stronger, because there are, I know you and I have been in this community for a really long time. And we've seen some out there, because I know Kristen Bartlett was one of the people that I first started watching in pre-op days, and I believe she was insulin at the time. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I can't remember if she was insulin, but I do know that diabetes was one of her, focus factors on that.
Yeah.
And I know that she was concerned, about it changing and wondering if it would really kind of calm it down, and
Yeah.
I just think that a lot of people think, oh, well, if you're thin, even though it's hereditary, maybe you just won't get it, or maybe it can't reoccur. And, sometimes we're just sort of fighting a demon that can't be, that just unfortunately can't be invisible. I mean, it always kind of becomes, it always sort of appears, and unfortunately I feel like as well, because with my dad, everything sort of just happened. I mean, it was so odd. It happened when he was 66 with his first stroke at work. And it just kind of, like you said, it came on like a hurricane. I mean, at first it was just a stroke, then it was, another mini stroke and another mini stroke, and then a stroke and a heart attack. And, that's when they kind of filled us in on where exactly he was with all these different types of levels of illnesses he was developing so quickly.
Right.
So do you feel like with the information and the knowledge you have now, do you feel like it just sort of is entering into an age sort of phase, or do you think that it's just been hibernating and you just couldn't, beat it, if that makes sense,
Well, and I'm going to apologize. I'm not really playing with my dogs, but I am a caregiver, and I'm at their house tonight because the ladies in the hospital, they both have memory issues, and I'm staying with the husband. He's already gone to bed, and my dogs have been by themselves for 2 days. So
don't worry.
And they're wanting some attention right now.
Oh, that's okay. Put them on your lap. It's okay. It's fine.
She has a mind of her own.
We're critter friendly around here.
I know. I think the question you asked was it an age thing?
Well, I mean, did your doctors feel like, because you mentioned a stent, and that's a serious, process, and
I had my first stent before I was 40. Mine was basically hereditary. Everything is hereditary. I have NASH, which is non-alcoholic cirrhosis. I had an aunt that had that.
Wow.
I had a grandfather that had liver cancer. So all of these things, when I first went to my cardiologist, he was just blown away. My grandmother on my daddy's mother died at 40 of a stroke. So actually, there are tons of things. That's why they told me I'm basically a miracle at this point, because had I not, I was in really poor health when I had the surgery.
Well, you're lovely, and we're happy to have you. I just want to say that before you finish.
Let's see, where was I? I had a cousin that had the surgery, and on my 55th birthday, we all went to the beach. And I watched her eat, and I watched what she was doing, and I decided I could have the surgery. And that was in August. And then in September of that same year is when I started my process, because I'd always said, no, I can do it on my own. I can lose weight. Well, I tried everything. I had absolutely tried everything. So
were you also, not to, I was just thinking about recently, over the last 6 or 7 months, were you also kind of experiencing allergies and tummy issues like I was?
Yes,
or, you know what I mean? That's a new one too, I think.
Okay. All right. Last year, in April, which would have been 2014, for about 3 months, I had been having problems with my stomach, just hurting really bad every time I ate. And it was kind of like I was dumping on everything that I ate. So I just, I really didn't pay that much of attention to it. But then I watched Patricia Miller's a video about something that happened to her, and she literally could have died had she not got it taken care of. So the next day I called my doctor's office, and he said, yes, or my bariatric surgeon, he said, yes, come in. And before they even did anything else, they said, we're going to do exploratory surgery because we think you have an incisional, an incisional hernia, which basically what happens is if your bowels get twisted, they can fall through those holes and you'll die.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. Luckily, when everything was said and done, I did not have that. They attributed all the pain I was having to scar tissue, and for lack of anything else to say, I was full of poop.
Aw. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and those are things. And I was going regularly. You said, "Is there anything you don't want to answer?" Well, I've just answered a whole bunch of stuff, but I went what I thought was regularly. They said, but it's kind of, even though you're going regular, you're still full. So within the next month or so, I had like a colonoscopy, and I was totally, everything was gone. So that helped. But I also noticed that after that, I developed what I called an intolerance for whey protein, because I loved Quest bars. I was eating Quest bars. I didn't really drink that many shakes, but anytime I did anything with whey protein in it, I got deathly ill. I mean, really, really bad dumping, the
Mm-hmm.
kind that you can only just go to bed and curl up in a ball. Um, and so I had some allergy testing done this year. I found out I'm allergic to peanuts, egg whites, egg yolks, pork, soy,
Wow.
peanuts. I know I'm forgetting something, but and I'm not. I thought dairy may be a thing because I eat a lot of yogurt, Greek yogurt, but that was not one of my things. So when I started and cutting those things out of my diet, I noticed a big difference. But I also noticed a difference because I started a paleo type diet, which that's not really bariatric friendly in some ways, because everybody thinks, oh, it's good for you. You're not eating flour or wheat, or yeah, but you're still eating other things that are not really bariatric friendly, that are carbs. So I've really had to rework my whole diet, and I'm in the process of kind of trying to find what really works and not get sick anymore.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when I first started having issues, and I'm glad that you commented on some of my videos too, because one of the first things I asked him was he going to do an endo? Because he was
Yeah.
so focused on doing a swallow, and he was focused on my gallbladder, which is, I mean, I think that's pretty standard when, you're having, but the only thing is I told him, from the very beginning in 12, I've always had a faint discomfort on my left side under my left rib cage. That's just always been something there. I've learned to live with it. I've learned to deal with it. And I always had the heightened taste, and like when you talk about sweet, and that dumping feeling, I get that often. Now, I don't get it as bad as I used to get it, where you're talking about where you literally have to lay down. You know what I mean? Your mouth is sort of overwatering, and you're just, because I always got kind of the cross. Like I got the over producing of the saliva plus the bubbles, plus the foam.
Yeah.
And that happened ever since surgery. It took me 4 months to get over that. But what really scares me about what you said is that they are referring me over to a gastro specialist or something like that, But what does frighten me, I don't have as much pain because I'm working with the dietitian through this new medical group, which is called Sutter Bariatrics, as opposed to the UC Davis, where the other hospital. But now that you're sharing all these things, I mean, I was kind of focused on why were they not concerned about the regain, but they didn't really. I mean, I just thought, I found it kind of weird how they just wanted to stop the exploratory surgery, because now you're really kind of making me think, okay, wait a minute, if there is an issue and I have this constant discomfort, in my left side, and no one's really paying attention to it. I mean, I don't know if they can see in the GI swallow scan, where the, because they did do an abdominal, what do you call it, an abdominal ultrasound as well. So I don't know if that's how they determined, some of the issue. I don't know if that's visible, because I know sometimes they do have to go in and actually see, what is happening. I know that also what you're talking about, leaks and ulcers and so on and so forth, are hard to see as well unless they actually go in. So I'm glad that you're sharing this and kind of, sharing this awareness, because sometimes especially I feel like with gastric bypass, a lot of things happen sort of later down the road. And you get confused, you know, you don't know it. Do I, like you said, do I just have an allergy? You know, is all this sort of, is this reflux? You know, because I know that he also, I don't know, I wanted to ask you as well. They started me out on something that was sort of an antibiotic for a infection of the intestines. He was worried about that first. I don't know if they started you on that just to find out.
Pylori.
Yes, yes. And then the second thing he gave me was something to control the bile, because he did say that gastric bypass patients are known to produce more bile, and sometimes that can escape and come up into the throat, he was saying. And so, you know, he was a little bit concerned about that. But, you know, no matter what they did for me so far, they still didn't pinpoint the issue. And so I was a little just concerned that the bariatrician, right, which is very similar to a nurse practitioner, made the decision not to, I mean, he just basically told my told my surgeon the surgery's off. Like, she doesn't need surgery at all. And I just feel like, was there enough investigation on my internal side, you know what I mean, to really figure out if there is something cautionary? But, and I'm so glad that you're sharing these things, because I'm 44, but I mean, how am I supposed to know as a gastric bypass patient what is, you know, like you said, just sort of, maybe you're eating something that is affecting you, right? You know, with your digestive system, are you pushing it with your sweets, you know what I mean, with coffee and things like that? Because I know a lot of people, especially, we just had Melanie, which is Zen, on the show last week, that shared that she has gastritis. So, and I am taking, I was also going to ask you, are you now taking a probiotic as well daily? Does that help at all with any of your issues?
I do take a probiotic daily, and I have been taking that for probably about 2 years.
Yeah. So when you discovered some of these allergy, you know, effects that you have now, what exactly did they have you do? Like, with, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people out there know what allergy testing and what to ask for, or what they're actually searching for. What is, how does that work, that process?
The problem is, I was referred to an ENT, and she is an allergy specialist. So she's the one that did the allergy testing. Well, she really didn't understand gastric bypass and all those issues. But what I did, the information I did find out from her was what I was allergic to. I did, and she also went ahead and tested for other nuts, because I'm allergic to peanuts, but it's not to the point where, you know, I can't touch peanuts, I can't smell, you know. I know none of the allergies I have are that bad, but I noticed right after I found out, I was cooking one day here, and I cooked breakfast for them, and they had eggs and bacon, and which I'm allergic to eggs and pork. I thought, well, I'm just going to eat a little bit of both. But within 10 minutes, I was sick, sick, sick. So anytime I've eaten some of the things that when I really pay attention, that I've found out I'm allergic to, it makes a huge difference.
So allergies, it sounds like, or I don't know if she shared this with you, but allergies, like for me, we'll just use me as an example, because I'm an anaphylactic allergy person. So, and this is something I found out more or less after surgery, when my mom and my boyfriend came in and said, oh my God, your lips and your tongue and your throat, you know, were a little bit big. And so I noticed that anytime I take an antibiotic, anytime I like smell candles, or, you know what I mean, certain things that are aerosol-y, or just, you know, different scents, maybe something I'm trying, like you saying, and that it really is kind of opening my eyes to the peanut butter thing, because I mean, whenever I get, like, I call it like a sandpaper-ish kind of, you know what I mean, in my throat, and my tongue gets a little bit swollen, and I only know that because it's kind of sort of pushing out against my teeth, you know? So that's why I was asking you, with your allergy, when you said sick, 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 what are your, like, what gave you, like, well, you know?
Basically dumping syndrome, but I also itch. I mean, my whole body itches, and my tongue and my lips, those things are that way too.
Wow.
But when I also get physically sick.
So you vomit, or you have, you know, comes out the other end, or something of that nature, right? Or, you know, yeah. With dumping, for me, when I first experienced dumping, where I asked the actual surgeon, because I never really understood. I mean, I read a lot about dumping, but I know each person, you know, sort of experiences dumping differently. For me, it was more or less kind of like, you have children, right? You have children?
No.
Carla?
I do
Okay,
not.
so with pregnancy, when you first get it, and some may relate to this or not, but when you first get it, your body is in such a a sort of a rampage of change that you
Right.
feel sick, you get a headache, and you get so sort of overwhelmed with nausea, kind of, and just kind of like you get dizzy and off kilter and off balance and so on and so forth. So it was those types of things I was learning that I guess are dumping, for me, which means, like with that over sensation of sweetness, like we were talking about proteins and things, because ever since surgery, I mean, I could not deal with, even today, like if I don't put like a spring mix, which is like a chard and a spinach and, so on and so forth, in that with that powder. And I use peanut butter only because it was the only thing I could think of, even though it has sugar in it, that will tone it down in terms of the sweetness. And then I just learned, actually, my last 2 appointments, that my dietitian said there's so many varieties of protein powders out there. I did not know that. I mean, I've heard other people talk about like no egg white protein powder, I believe. So soy protein powder. She was talking about another type of protein powder as well. But I just always just went to like Target or Walmart, and pick something up. So so when you were learning those different protein powders, were you just buying, like, are you using those that don't have those ingredients in there now? Are you using like more organic or like more vegan, sort of types of products now?
Well, right after surgery, what I used was, like you said, Walmart, whatever worked, whatever tasted good, and I looked at the number of sugars and the proteins and all that kind of stuff. And that was my main concern, was, were there sugars in there, and how many protein were in there? Now, if I have a protein shake, which is very rare, but sometimes I do in the morning because I really don't want to eat anything, I get something from Whole Foods that's a vegan type, but I'm allergic to soy, so it can't be soy. It's got to be a vegetable based protein powder.
Wow, and I think, what, that's funny you said that too, because she was sharing different things, and I was wondering as well, because and I'm only going to mention this to you because they mentioned it to me. Were your dietitian or the people that you were working with you, were they also kind of exploring to see if you had that gluten? There's a disease or something
Celiac disease.
That's it.
No, I'm
That's
not.
it.
I'm not that, but I am allergic. I am intolerant or allergic to gluten, but I'm not a celiac.
Oh, wow, that's so weird, huh? Like, because I always just thought that was like, if you were allergic to gluten, or, it affected you in such a
Right.
way that you automatically had that. But like you, I mean, it's so funny how similar we are, because they're actually having me do what you were doing in the beginning of your process, taking things out, putting things in, just to see how my body's reacting, and it's kind of really strange that that we have that in common, because when it first started happening, I thought maybe I'm just eating, too much crap, you know what I mean? Or maybe I'm just, putting too many breads, or because, you get so far out that you're careful, but you slip, I mean, everybody knows, and then I feel like it's the 20 to 25 pound regain is pretty standard within 3 to 5, they say, so I feel like that's not too much to worry about. I mean, obviously you have to be more aware, and you have to go back to basics and so on and so forth when those things happen. But I feel like I feel like there's so much about this surgery, and I don't know if VSGers are the same way, but I do know that just us talking about this kind of brings awareness to that you're really always susceptible to things, to your body changing. You know what I mean? Like, you'll never know. Because one of the things, and I don't know if they told you in the beginning as well, but for me, they shared in this seminar, and the surgeon that worked on me said, your lactose intolerance is going to go away, right? Your GERD is going to go away. You're almost diabetic completely right now, but we're going to fix that. And now, my fasting numbers are up again. I mean, I'm also 32 pounds up. I believe I'm kind of fluctuating between that 27 and 31 right now. But at the same time, I'm wondering, am I going to be a diabetic, right? You know what I mean? Because now, like, no matter what I do, and on top of all these allergy problems we're talking about, and food intolerances and all this, it seems like all of a sudden you kind of really have to spend so much time with the physicians, different specialists, like you said. So having said that, with your cardiology stuff, Are you, with the new stent, has that been successful since last year? I mean, are you still at risk with all these different sort of, extensions you're having to deal with when it comes to different illnesses you're dealing with? Because it seems like a lot,
Yeah, well, the stent, I just started having chest pains again, which I had not. That was almost exactly 2 years out when I had that put in. Um, I had not had any chest pains at all, but I knew when I woke up the morning I had them that that's what it was. So I drove myself to the emergency room. I know that's stupid, but anyway, so they put me right in the hospital, and my cardiologist has told me, I have to follow the cardiac rules, and I'm always at risk with the cardiac thing. I mean, my blood pressure is great. It's low. They want to keep it low. My cholesterol, all my numbers are wonderful. My vitamin levels are all great. All my numbers are good. But my cardiologist still said, I don't care what your numbers are, ever come off of cholesterol. You cannot ever come off of Plavix, which is a blood thinner. You cannot ever come off of a low pressure type thing. So there are things that I will be taking for the rest of my life. Plus, I take oral meds and insulin for my diabetes.
So are you on metformin and glipizide or something of that
No,
nature? Or?
no, that's what I took for 20 years. What I'm
Yeah.
taking now is called Invokana. It's a
Okay.
fairly new, and what it really does is it makes you pee the sugar out. And
Wow.
it's almost like a diuretic, but it's not. You have to kind of be careful and make sure you drink enough fluids. But I mean, the big difference is if I go in, say I think I might have a UTI, and they check my urine with a urine stick, my sugar from that would be like 300, because I pee out the sugar, and
Yeah.
it's all in my pee. But if you did an A1C or a blood stick, my sugar would be normal.
Wow.
Uh,
That is
so
so.
that's how that medicine works.
With your job as well, did they feel that it was maybe too physical or maybe too stressful since you were taking care of a couple? Because I know just my dad alone, my boyfriend had his mom and dad, and he passed away. Unfortunately, his dad passed away. It was very sad to see him go. He had liver cancer. But now, like, did they ever say anything about, perhaps two of them at one time is a bit much for your personal,
Um,
situation?
Basically, there is no physical care involved. They both have memory issues. She has Alzheimer's, and he has severe memory loss. Physically, they're okay. Now she is in the hospital now for chest related, heart
Hmm.
issues. But as far as having to help them, with daily self-help skills, I don't have to do that. I cook, I plan their menus, I shop for them. Basically, I'm their memory is what I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I taught special education for 30 years, so I'm kind of doing the same thing with adults that I did with children now. So, but that's when I had my first stint, was after I retired from teaching. I mean, it's like I fell apart the day I retired. That was really stressful, but I retired to take care of my mom is what I did, and I just didn't go back to teaching after that. I found other things, so that's
Yeah. So since you mentioned that, why don't you tell us a little bit about, your background and like what you did for, I mean, I know we know you're a teacher and stuff, but did you always plan to do that? I mean, were you married? So you said you didn't have any children. And it sounds like, just to kind of sum that up, we usually ask, what was your breaking point, but it sounds like a lot of the illnesses and just your weight were kind of contributing, to, it being the remedy for your circumstance at the time in terms of the surgery. So tell us a little bit about just your life in general, like move, up to now, if you don't mind. I mean, I don't want to,
oh,
just.
sure. I don't mind. I kind of always knew that I wanted to be in special education when I went to college. It was really a fairly new thing. Public Law 94-142 had just been passed to include these people in public education. I have a cousin that is developmentally disabled, and he's 2 years older than I am. So I worked with him when I was younger, and he's kind of my heart. That's how I got involved in this. So I studied special education at the University of Alabama. I first started teaching just developmentally disabled, and from their education. My master's, I did some graduate work at Florida State University, and then I came back and finished my master's at the University of Alabama in learning disabilities. So I worked the last, well, I'd say 20 years. I worked with students that were autistic, students that had learning disabilities or ADHD, those type of things. And I knew
Well,
I always wanted to do that. The
wow,
other
that's
thing that I always
amazing.
wanted to do, and I thought I could do both of them, was music. I sing, I play the piano. In fact, I directed a church choir for 15 years, and I love that. And
Wow.
I still sing solos at church, and I'm involved like in community choirs and that kind of thing. I minored in music. I did not, because at that point in time, and still, it's really hard to get a job in teaching music in a public school. So that's why I decided to go with the special education. Now, as far as being married, yes, I was married. Waited a very long time. I was not married until I was 42. I had decided it was never going to happen. But
Aw.
but a friend of mine, I'll try to make this quick, but it's not really a quick story. So
Take your
a friend of
time.
mine, I live in Alabama. I don't think we mentioned that, and people can hear my southern accent, so I'm sure they knew I was from the South. I lived in Alabama, and I had a really good friend that lived in Mississippi, and she said, "I've got somebody I want you to meet." I said, "I have done everything. I've been on blind dates. I'm just through. I'm okay. No problem. No, I'm not coming to Mississippi. I don't want to meet this guy." She said, "I had a dream. I had a dream. You've got to meet him." So, I mean, she just was relentless. She would not give up. So I said, "Okay, I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't seen your children in a while. I'll come see you. I'll go out with this guy." And that's it. And she told me a few things about him. He worked with her husband at Mississippi Public Television.
Wow.
And so she knew what I liked and what I didn't like. And she told me he had brown eyes. Well, she knew I was crazy about blue eyes. And we met at a small airport right outside of Jackson because he was a flying enthusiast. He loved flying, and he belonged to this group that collected old World War II airplanes. So he showed me around the airplane hangar, and he had on sunglasses. So we left there and we went to a restaurant and ate. And by then it had gotten dark, and I sat across the table from him, and he took those sunglasses off, and I saw the most beautiful blue eyes I'd ever seen in my life, and that was it. I was in
Oh
love.
my goodness, how cute.
Um,
Wow.
so both of us felt the same way, and the road between Mississippi and Alabama was, pretty, he came and I went, and so we did that for a year, and a year to the day after I met him, we got married.
Aw, that is so
Um,
sweet.
and he moved to Alabama. I tell people now, I'm not saying all this for people to be sad or anything else, because it's a good thing. We shared more love in a short period of time than most people have their whole life. I know that God put us together because he needed help. He had cancer.
Oh,
Um, he died a little over a year after we were married.
oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
I have not remarried. That was in 1999. I've dated some after that, but I'm not because I was single for the majority of my life and have lived on my own. I know some people just want to get married just to be with somebody. I'm not really willing to just settle. I had the
Hmm.
best, so I'm not really willing to just be married to be married. But he was a wonderful guy. He had a degree in art history, photography, and drawing, and his master's was from the University of Southern Mississippi in public relations. And He was a wonderful guy. His name was Mitch.
Aw. Well, Carla, we're gonna have to find you somebody. BBTV might just have to reach out and get you and find somebody,
Well,
because you are amazing and phenomenal and beautiful, and just everything about what we are sharing is just, it's just really moving, because not only, you're giving yourself to others. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I know being a caregiver, it's not easy. It isn't. I mean, unfortunately, in my circumstance, my father has overnight, I mean, from May to June of 2014, one day he could get up, go from his bedroom to his kitchen and sit down and enjoy and heat his own coffee and, have a small piece of toast or some oatmeal. And today he cannot do that. So, I know that, unfortunately, in my circumstance, I have to help him physically with everything. Now they say, I mean, the upside to that is that they say that with dementia, sort of the way it works, because my dad has cardiovascular dementia, and I just
right.
attended a webinar that said 16% of all people that have strokes inherit what they call cardiovascular dementia, which is not necessarily brain damage, just they lose their short-term memory as opposed to their long-term memory.
Right.
So, but it does affect, and then on the other side of that, it's the strokes that have impaired his mobility, which means both legs. He started out with his left leg, then his right leg got affected from the stroke, and so on and so forth. So the reason why I'm saying that is because giving yourself to another person, or to those others, it can be just a bit. It's I don't think caregivers realize how much they are focused on taking care of others, and sometimes they lose sight of creating enough me time for themselves. So, and just the fact that you've changed, I mean, when I went into your Facebook profile, oh my goodness, I mean, you are like I mean, you are just like phenomenally beautiful. You were beautiful before, because all of your pictures as well just showed you could see that you were happy. You know what I mean? Just a happy person. And when you talked about being single, for a long period of time, sometimes when people are alone, you can see sort of they may be smiling, in certain pictures, or if you see them talking or something, but you can sort of feel a sadness, you know what I mean, about them.
Uh-huh.
And in all of your pictures, I mean, there was such a wonderful, warm vibe. And I also noticed that you've attended a couple of WLSFAs, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But so I just have to say, I mean, you just are phenomenally beautiful, and I cannot tell you how many people were very excited to know that you were going to be on the show tonight, because they were like,
Nice.
"Oh my goodness, yay, Carla!" So so I just want to say thank you so much for donating your time period, just to sit and talk with us, and explain your story, and share that, because a lot of people don't understand that some things that you hear in the beginning, may not necessarily be what you experience when you're in it.
Right.
So the second part of this is I wanted to talk about what brought you to social media. Like, how did you incorporate social media and YouTube and so on and so forth? How did you make that a part of your life?
Well, when I first decided to have the surgery and I started my 6 months of documentation, I went to the workshop that my bariatric surgeon had, and I literally had a notebook that was that thick of stuff to read, and I read everything I could get my hands on, and I just started researching. And actually, I did not find YouTube until like the week before my surgery, and I don't know, I just put in the search bar. Gastric bypass or something, and all these videos started coming up. Well, I started watching them, and I was just amazed. So I really was in on the bottom line with, yes, I watched them before. I did not start making videos myself until about 3 months out, but videos, because I live in a small town in Alabama that's about 50 miles north of Birmingham. I'm halfway between Huntsville and Birmingham. If you don't know anything about Alabama, most people know those two names, because
Mm-hmm.
Huntsville is the space industry, and then Birmingham is the largest city in the state. So I'm halfway in between there, but it's a small town, and my surgery was done in Birmingham. So they had support groups, but it's once a month at night, and it was just impossible for me to get there.
Yeah.
So YouTube videos became my sole means of support. So I watched all these people. I watched you, and I watched Rosemary, I watched Tanya, and numerous other people, and but I also watched some people that are, I mean, you wonder what happens to some of these people, because we kind of started out at the same place, and I watched them, and then they just disappeared. And I get it. Sometimes people get really busy, but sometimes I just worry about some of these people that are no
Yeah, no,
longer
I
here.
totally understand. And I think that we brought that up. I think Takesha and I brought that up in the premiere because the whole point of originating the show, and I am going to, just so they heard it first here, I'm going to extend my hand to invite you onto the BBT staff. And I was going to wait till after the show to say that, but I'm going to just, kind of share that you are such an inspiration to me. I would like you to join our team, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, I mean, I totally think that sometimes people they kind of, there's a lot of, I feel like, and maybe you may feel the same way after so many years of being in the community, but some people think, when you're first out there, you're watching your videos, you're totally focused, you're kind of breathing or inhaling kind of everybody's journey and kind of trying to figure out where do you fit in that, what are your personal experiences going to be, so those types of things. So you're learning from others, from other people, and just keeping and touching base with them and making sure that they're okay. But I feel like some people have said, well, you can only live virtually so long, right? You know what I mean? Before you reach your goal and you're kind of out there living life and so on and so forth. And then you have the others on the flip side of that, you have other people that say, well, what else is there to talk about? And that is how we came up with the idea for this show, because I feel like some people, when they do hit 3, 4, 5 years out, they feel like there may not be a lot to report on a weekly basis, but you never know when something exciting, or maybe a subject of awareness, like we were talking about allergies and, just different things that happen,
Right.
that, you can really bring to the you can bring to the table, you can share that, and that way people do have sort of not an expectation so much, but they kind of know that this is a lifestyle, this whole transformation that you're doing to your body, regardless of your illnesses or your comorbidities, or even if you're just doing it without comorbidities to make a change, that it's a constant work in process. It's like sculpting, a statue or doing a piece of art. I mean, it just sort of never ends. And so, that's why I'm so happy again to have you on here, because I think there's so many people that I would love to bring into our world of our show, because I've watched so many people. And I mean, I remember the first person that I found, and I don't know if you found her too, but her name was RNY Steph. I think it was RNY Stephanie or something of that nature. And she had lost, just a ton of weight. I mean, she had like 9,000 followers or something crazy now, what I mean? Because her videos are sitting there. And, there's just so many people, you wonder, are they healthy? You know what I mean? There were some people that made videos about what you don't know about gastric bypass or VSG, that they shared, and then they kind of just fell off the planet.
I know.
Yeah, so stuff like that. And so I share.
What happened?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I share the same kind of interest that you do, because I wonder, are they happy? Are they healthy? Did they just not come back because maybe they had some regain, And then finally, I found someone just recently, about 6 or 7 months ago, when I made this final channel that I have now, that a woman that had made videos pretty avidly in the beginning. I never saw her before I found her video, but she was saying the same exact thing that we're talking about now. She was saying, I was just mortified. I felt like a fail. She had gained 55 pounds, and she just, she was so like happy to report her success, that, her launch into a different, into regain, or, just some kind of transitioning of kind of going backwards a little bit. It kept her from, doing videos. And that's why I just love to bring in people that have been in this community for years, because, some people are not involved in the YouTube community, as like they're more sort of in depth of the Facebook community, with groups and things like that. Some people don't make videos. And then there's, the opposite side of YouTube people that, because I know Rob Reno has shared in the weight loss community that he does not have a Facebook. So, I'm just so happy that, like I'm able to reach out to you guys that have been around for a long time, and are still kind of sharing, hey, this is what happened to me, but I'm still going strong. I still have faith in the decision I made. I still stand by it, and so on and so forth. Because I feel like a lot of people are really frightened to make this decision, but, there is good to it. It just has, it twerk, you know what I mean? It has its sort of kinks in it, just like anything else, nothing's perfect, and you never know what to expect. So now share with us how you've made friends in the community. And I've seen in your photos that you've attended to WLSFAs and so on and so forth. So what was your experience with the people in the community as well?
Actually, I've only been to one. I went to Tampa 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. And I absolutely had a marvelous time. Did not know a single person, you know, had not met anybody, but I felt like these people had been in my life forever because I'd had watched their videos, they had watched mine, you know, and I even got together with two people and we roomed together and we've become friends, and I'd never met them before, and I just found everybody was just, it's like any group that you're with. Yes, there are good people, there are bad people, and you can concentrate on whatever you want to, but I choose to concentrate on the positive things. And it was just so great to see everybody, but it's also educational. All the workshops that were there were, amazing. Plus the money that they raise for WLSFA, to do scholarships for people who don't have insurance or can't afford surgery or plastics or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're Shannon and I are going to make Nashville. This is my first time, and I've shared many times in my videos and so on and so forth, watching people gear up for Vegas. I don't know if you remember when they first started doing the WSFAs. Yeah, so.
That was my first year, and when I found them, and everybody was going to Vegas, and I was going, I wish I'd known about this sooner.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of talk as well, I feel like in the community as well, that because I feel like at this point our community has grown so much and it's evolved so much, and we are a age bracket abroad, you know what I mean, like we really are diverse in age, which is very nice to see, because it brings so many different opinions and visions and perceptions and perspectives, to our community. And I really appreciate that we are in the place that we are in right now, because like such as the Naked Truth, that's been really rising and doing really well, and having some really great guests. I mean, they've had a surgeon on there, and I think they just had an author on there. And it's just great to see the different shows, Christy's show and Michael's show, Sizzle This, is great. Pretty Losers, I mean, I've just doing this project this time has really, sort of helped me kind of explore, because like even just stepping away, for 5 or 6 months or however long I was gone, I was just like, wow, I come back and there's a show, what I mean? There's so many shows like on, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to get to know all these people, and then to meet Shannon, which was, I was just blessed to meet Shannon, because all the time, I don't know if you were able to either physically meet someone in your physical group, or reach out to someone online that was close to you or fairly close to you, other than flying to the WLSFA. Like for me, I never was able to really connect with anybody that was local. So it was so cool to meet someone and know that we just had that common ground where we wouldn't find, difficulty having conversation. Because Shannon's in her early 20s, and I was like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like, are we gonna have a lot in common? And she was just so great. I mean, she came over, it was really warm, and she's so kind, and she's just stunning. I mean, seriously, when you see her, she's just like, she's beautiful beyond words. But I mean, it was just really nice to be able to find, different people. And now that we're talking about this, do you know Jody? I think I'm going to spell her last name because I know she's here in Roseville, California, not far from me. And we saw her actually at the support group. That's why I'm mentioning her. But her name is Jody, and her last name I believe is spelled Oldies, if I'm not mistaken. And I know she left announced that you were going to be on the show.
I saw the comment, and there's so many people that I've seen, and there are so many people that I met there, and I know who she is, but I don't really know her.
Oh, okay, I see. I just realized, like, just opening up and starting this project and meeting Shannon has really helped me get to know so many people near me. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I had no clue there were so many people, maybe not so much in my neighborhood, if you will, but like literally just not far away to drive. You know what I mean? Like even San Francisco is a little bit of a drive for me, but not, ridiculous, like 8 hours or something. But like, and that's why for me, I was very personally disappointed that I was not able to make San Diego, because it wasn't that far, from Sacramento. Right. But yeah, I mean, you must have just had an amazing time. So was everyone that you had met, because I saw that you had a few pictures with Rosemary and Connie and stuff, were everyone as beautiful and, you know what I mean, and warm and friendly as they were on their, as they were when you saw their videos? Or How was that experience for you?
Yeah, really they were. I mean, it was like I said, they had been friends forever, and most everybody was just, warm and gracious, and it was just so wonderful to meet all these people that had been my support. So last year I had planned to go to San Diego, but uh, I was just going, I really cannot afford to go for just that short period of time because the flight was going to cost me a mere
Oh yeah,
fortune. So I'm
yeah.
very excited about Nashville because that's only 2 hours away and I can drive. And so I plan on going on Thursday and helping and volunteering with some things. So I will be there.
Yay, I'm so happy because I mean, it's like, and now that I'm learning, like, we're having Lauren on the show next week, and I don't know if she's going, but I mean, just to hear, like, as time unfolds, because I know traveling is just, difficult, and in the community, certain people have made friends and, were able to hold gatherings of their own, and, I know there were a few people in the community that just had their Friendsgiving, and there's been a few people in the community that have, like, rented homes, and, you know what I mean, just to hang out for a few days, and so
Yeah.
and I know there's a lot of talk about the travel, that's involved in, going to different states and meeting different people or going on road trips and so on and so forth. So the WSFA, I'm really excited only because I've never been to something like that. I know a lot of people say they go more for the people than they do. I mean, some people are really interested in the education and so on, and I'm sure that it's more than, like, helpful and knowledgeable, especially for people that are new out, or, just you never can stop learning about this experience. I mean, I feel like that's kind of a given. But for me, I just wanted to experience the whole thing, like, not only jump on everybody that are my favorite, and give them a big hug, but as well as just, kind of being able to step into some of the seminars, just for, I mean, if I don't stay for the whole thing, that's fine, but, and then there's the formal dinner and so on and so forth. So I just feel like if I'm going to do this, I would rather do it, like, completely, just the first time, like you were talking about, Florida and stuff. And I feel like, it's just a great opportunity to put faces, and people physically together, as opposed to just learning, from a distance, on videos and stuff like that. I know a lot of people exchange phone numbers and, texts, and maybe sometimes have phone conversations and so on. But, we all have busy lives and different time zones and so on and so forth. That's why it's difficult to do a show, because you have to figure out, okay, what day is going to be good? Is anybody really going to watch? Because, like, I know right now for you, it's what, 8, 9, 10, it's almost 10:30 there, right? Or 9:30 over there.
No, 9:30. I'm Central Time.
Yeah, so for the people, on the East Coast, it's like difficult to find out if you can have a good time slot. And then I thought maybe Saturday, and I thought, well, Saturday's kind of an errand day and a family day, So like I said, I love that there are things like the WSFA. I know I've heard some talk of OH, I guess. I don't know much about obesity help. I don't, I've heard just ins and outs through the community, but I've never, been able to attend any of their events. And I heard, I don't know if you've heard, but someone I think mentioned to me recently, over the last couple of months, I believe, that they're gonna have something near Sacramento, I believe, for 2016, I think. So that'll be interesting if I can, take advantage and go somewhere that's, semi-local. That would be awesome. And just to hear you say that, it was a great experience. I think everything about the community is pretty positive. I think there's always going to be, an area of negativity that kind of reaches people. And, I know I'm a real big fan of Fly Girl BSG Lindsay. And I know that she recently made a video about a negative comment that she got, and it kind of got to her a little bit. And I think sometimes, people get to know us and things like that, and kind of get to know our stories, and maybe we mention a little bit more of our personal lives, or so on and so forth. And I think we try to convince ourselves that we don't mind what other people say, but sometimes you want to be an inspiration, because there are so many people that are afraid. They're really apprehensive. They're kind of going through their 6-month diet, or or their supervised diet, or they're just searching on YouTube like you did and like I did, just to find out what is this all about, and what does it feel like, or how are others doing. And so I would just, I always like to take the positive as well, and I've learned a few ins and outs myself on what to share and what not to share, out here. But I realized, even stepping away, and I don't know if you feel the same, but I realized stepping away as well, that for me personally, this community is too precious to me in terms of learning and keeping up with people, you know, such as yourself as well. And I'm just so very, very excited to actually make the effort to go, you know, to this year's event, because I really would like to see you know what I mean? I would like to meet, you know, the people that I've been a fan of for so long, you know? But I also wanted to ask, what advice would you give at this point, you know, to anyone that's looking into their surgery or has fears or anxieties or is looking online right now to, you know, figure out, is this for me? What would you say at this point, being this far out, that would be, you know, productive for them to think about?
Well, what I would say is research, 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 and talk to all the people you can beforehand, because a lot of people just jump into this. Okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have this surgery. And I have a friend that had gastric bypass like 3 months after I did. Did not, the doctor he went to is different than mine, and they did not do the education, and he knew nothing. And you've got to know. I mean, you've got to know what to expect and what's going to happen and what you can eat and what you need to do. And I mean, like you were talking about how you felt with dumping. For me, being a diabetic, I mean, my dumping is like a low blood sugar episode. So I could relate it to that. But, you know, read everything that you can read. You know, don't just you don't have to just go to one doctor. I would say research them and see how many surgeries they've had. Um, Look at the different kinds of surgeries. For me, the best surgery was gastric bypass because of all my comorbidities to help with the diabetes and the heart disease. I mean, I did it strictly for health reasons. Yes, I'm a totally new person inside and out. I'm not so much inside. I'm still Carla, but it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. The only bad thing is I didn't do it sooner. That's my only regret, is that I didn't do it sooner. But I really have no regrets at all. Best decision, even, you know, with exploratory surgery and all the things that I've had. But I haven't had things that a lot of people have had. So, and I never really had problems in the beginning. So, and it's like you said, I think things keep happening 3 years out, 4 years out, 5 years out, you know, and I think it's important that we continue to educate ourselves and to watch videos and to talk to people, because your body's continually changing.
I believe that too, and I'm so grateful to have Rosemary and Connie as well, because they are so far out. They're known as the,
Right.
you know, the eternal veterans at this point, and I love the support that they share and the activity, you know, that they give and the energy that they
Uh-huh.
give to I guess we could be called in a sense a society. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
I feel like we're growing. You know, we're just evolving to no end in terms of numbers, you know, and how many are that are inspired and successes, and I feel like that's why I just can't stress enough, and I love the fact that I'm able to reach out to people, and that I have been in the community long enough, even though I've come and gone, that I'm bringing people that are kind of approaching, you know what I mean, the 4 year
Uh-huh.
mark, the 5 year mark, and like to see the differences in everyone's story, you know, and just successes, and just having, like, I love that you're still here, that you're still making videos, that you're sharing your experiences, you know, and I just really feel like there is so much to talk about. We really don't run out of things to talk about. I mean, maybe, you know, if you don't want to make a weekly video or you don't want to constantly talk about weight, you know what I mean? Like, there's much more to this than that, you know. And another thing I wanted to ask you as well, because there is a growing, I feel like there's a growing population in our community as well, like maybe early 40s, 50s, you know, moving into 60s, as well as just some of the young girls that are having the surgery and how they're dealing with their hormones and the changes, you know, some experience depression and so on and so forth. So I want to ask you as well, through this experience now being 3.5 years out, did you also experience depression or any kind of, you know, sort of sadness, or you know, I don't know, like where your head actually caught up with your body, because you did say that you reached 113. I mean, that's fairly small for 5'3". So were you able to, you know, sort of balance out your emotions with your body changing as fast as it did?
my body changed really fast, and it was kind of hard because I would look in the mirror and I still saw the fat Carla, and everybody else was telling me how small I was, and I didn't believe that, you know. I saw it, and I won't ever forget, and I think I did this in one of my videos, but I went to a consignment shop, and because I was going through clothes like crazy, and I would go to the thrift store or consignment shop and buy a pair of jeans until I couldn't wear those anymore, and then I'd go buy another one. But I went in the dressing room, and there was a pair of jeans, and they were a size 4. I thought, well, and they were next to nothing. I mean, they were on sale big time.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
thought, well, I'll just try them on. They fit. I stood there in the dressing room and just cried and cried and cried and cried. And I never dreamed at that point that I would even go lower than that. But that was the point when I really kind of realized, hey, this is real. Uh, this really is real. As far as really being depressed, no, but the body dysmorphia of, seeing the old Carla, and and I've kind of gone through that now. I went back and looked at some pictures and videos of over a year ago when I was so small, and I looked at my face, and people would say, well, you look like a Holocaust victim. I said, I do not.
Oh my
But
goodness. Wow, that's a bit much.
I
Wow.
know, I know, but and they were exaggerating. But I know now, like I said, I would like, my goal weight now is between like 125, 130, and I stay right now between like 140, 135. Like I'm 135 today. So if I lost 10 pounds, I would be happy. But if I don't, I'm still okay with it because eh, I'm great for where I am. Like I'll turn 60 next year. I'm good. I'm real
And you
good.
look fabulous, my darling.
Thank you.
You look
Thank you.
fabulous. One thing I also wanted to ask really quick before we close is, a lot of people do reach, I don't know, plastics is a funny thing. I think people, I mean, a lot of us are afraid of the number, of course, because especially in the States, when you have it in the States, I mean, it's a very expensive procedure. I mean, it takes a lot of documentation to get coverage. There's very minimal surgeries that are covered. So have you, with your illnesses and so on and so forth, have you ever considered maybe a little bit of plastics, or have you talked to your doctors and maybe they thought it wasn't a good idea, or where were you with that at this point? Because I think it's pretty much between 3 and 5. Some people get it as, I mean, I'm seeing it right now at a year and a half, which I think is a little soon. But that's just,
I think that's a little
that's just
soon.
because, yeah, I mean, I'm just going by what my surgeons, because I've had 3 surgeons tell me, you should always wait 2 years, period. But, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of people, obviously, they're having great successes with their, with their plastics. And obviously, there's a lot of surgeons out there that have done several surgeries. And it comes to find out that you really don't, you really don't really necessarily need to wait. It sounds like it's more about maintenance, maybe,
Yeah.
in terms of doing that. So have you thought about such a thing, or is it not in your
Well,
future, or?
I really don't think plastics are in my future for many reasons, but I did consider it. When I went to Tampa, I had a consult with Dr. Katzen, and that was
Hey,
that was wonderful. I mean, and he really thought he could get some of my stuff covered with insurance because he's done so many. He kind of knows. But California is a long way from Alabama, and I would have had to been out there for a very long time. The biggest thing that scares me is I I have basically no one. I don't have any family near me. I live alone, and I've watched all these people with, you've got to have some help.
mm-hmm.
And I think that for that reason within itself, I don't know that I could ever do it without having some help somewhere close, because that's one reason I kind of thought about the California deal with Dr. Katzen, because they have places where you can stay, and they have people check on you daily, but I still would have had to been gone for a very long time.
Yeah.
So um, the pain does not really scare me. It's the infections, and the not being able to do anything for such a long period of time.
Was he concerned at all? Because it sounds like that was 2 years ago, so that was before you had your stent. You know, do you feel like at this point maybe there might be concerns if you ever did decide to do a little bit of work, maybe not extensive work, obviously, but I mean, if you did have, you know, if you did decide at some point that you could find someone fairly close, or you could just come stay with me because I would just take care of
Okay, that'll work. That'll work.
yeah, no, I'm serious. But I'm in Sacramento, so I'm a long way from Southern California. However, you could definitely stay with me. I would definitely take care of you. However, is there any concern, though, seriously, about, you know, some of your comorbids, you know, your illnesses that you deal with on a daily basis? Did he, you know, that was kind of a long time ago, but at this point, do you think that would play any part of recovery or anything, or any danger or risk to you?
Well, that was like 18 months ago. He did not mention any of those things, but he had all that information in front of him. He, you know, he knew all my stuff. I talked to my bariatric surgeon about it. He gave me some references for good people in Birmingham. I've talked not necessarily to my primary care physician, but to my diabetic educator. She's a nurse practitioner. She, you know, she keeps asking me, well, did you ever follow through with the doctor in California? And I said, no, but diabetics, you know, healing is you know, a big thing, and infections with that surgery, that being a diabetic and my heart issues, or anytime you're put to sleep at this point, it just really does not make sense for me to do an elective surgery like that at this point in my life.
Yeah, I
I
was
mean,
thinking. That's what I was thinking.
if I was 40, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because, you know, I look in the mirror and I'm going, I wish this stuff was gone. I mean, I really do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
nobody sees it but me. And everybody goes, what are you talking about? Excess skin? I don't see anything. I said, well, I hide it. I hide it
Oh,
really well. But
yeah.
um, when you look at yourself naked in the mirror, you go, but then I think about what I looked like before. So it's a lot better. So I've just, I've just really, you know, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah, well, I think you know there's a lot of diversity when it comes to the opinion of, you know, plastics and what it's for, and why you do it, and so on and so forth. You know, I mean, and I think with, you know, the side effects that you're dealing with, your other illnesses, I feel like if I was, you know, in your place, I would feel like my life is more you know what I mean? Like my
Uh-huh.
health and my of how I'm living my life and so on and so forth would be a lot more you know, important, I guess, to me at that point. But at the same time, you know, I mean, I feel like there's so many, like, you know, advances in technology and so on and so forth that, I mean, you know, I think it just all depends on, you know, the hand you're in as well, you
Yeah.
know, and that's something I'm glad that you mentioned about researching, because I feel like there's so much, like, I remember when I first started, and I won't get on a tangent because I know we're pretty close on time here, but one thing I did learn, and I shared early on, and unfortunately I didn't keep those videos up, but I did learn from a previous job. I learned how to check the medical board, you know, and investigate my surgeons and my doctors.
Right.
I mean, you can actually do that in any state for any type of specialist or doctor that you're dealing with. And one of the things that people look for when they investigate medical boards is what they call disciplinary actions, you know, which is complaints and so on and so forth.
Right.
Not so much malpractice lawsuits, but, you know, there are people that will call and complain to the board of, you know, certain doctors, or, you know, whatever the case may be, whether it be their conduct, or, you know, or maybe they did, you know, have a bad experience or so on and so forth. Because there is, I think, under the covers, there's a lot of, or behind the curtain, there's a lot of misdiagnosis that goes on, you know, just period. I mean, you know, it's not
Uh-huh.
just for plastics, but I think that, you know,
Right.
researching and knowing how to do that, and when you discover how easy it is to do, you know, that it really helps to know that, you know, it's very easy to research your doctors. So I say that you look beautiful. And I think
Thank you.
that, you know, I think it's a personal decision, you know, and I think that at this point, if you're really feeling confident, because I'm telling you right now, in your photos, you just glow. You really do. You have so many beautiful photos, and just the vibe that your pictures just show that you're in a happy place. And I want to say that it's very, the kindness that you're sharing in terms of taking care of other people, especially the elderly, I feel like. And then, you know, coming from children, I know that's got to be such, you know what I mean, such a change when you started to become a caregiver, right? Because that's something that you don't do for loved ones, right? That was something that you decided to do just after retirement.
Well, no, not really, because I took care of my husband when he had cancer, and
Oh,
I
I see.
retired from teaching to take care of my mother before she passed away.
Did your
So,
mom pass
yeah.
away from cancer as well? Or I'm sorry if that is too much to ask. I
If I
didn't mean
got
to
into
ask that.
that, we'd be here forever. Long story short,
Oh, okay.
she broke a hip and she had some intestinal problems, and they did a CT, and she had pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
she lived a very short time after that diagnosis. But with pancreatic cancer, they say that, when you start having symptoms, then it's too late because it kind of just sneaks up on you. But she was 87 and she had had a lot of health issues, but before that. So
Yeah, my grandmother passed away at 94, I believe, and she had breast cancer in her 70s. You know what I mean? So
uh-huh.
she was able to live a full life before she started developing health issues, and then ultimately before her passing in 12, she died of in April of 12, but she died of leukemia. So, and that
Uh-huh.
actually that discovery, I've learned from my mom's family that it came from a fall. You know what I mean? Just that whole like knowing that she had, some kind of leukemia was like, wow, where did that come from? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because she just kind of recovered from cancer, and it's just strange that you can inherit, different diseases as you get older. And wow, I just was like, okay, so am I supposed to be telling the doctors that? I ask my mom that all the time. Am I supposed to be telling them that my grandmother had all these different diseases when she was older? Because I never know, they ask you about your family and your family history, and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to say? My dad for sure, because he developed all the heart issues and so on and so forth
Right.
from diabetes. So okay, so in closing, do you have anything else to share before we end the show? And any wise words to say for those that, like I said, I know you gave a little bit of advice, but is there anything else that you can share that you feel will be food for thought moving on in their journey, or just continuing on in their journey, or any wise words that you want to share before we close?
Well, my words of advice are, this is a lifelong journey. It never ends. And if you think that, this is going to be a quick fix and you're going to lose all this weight and you don't have to worry about it anymore, that's not true. It's the hardest I've ever worked at anything in my life, but it's been the most rewarding thing that I have ever done. So it always continues. You need to follow the rules that your doctor gives you. And yes, all the advice you get from everybody else is great, but ultimately you need to follow your doctor's rules. And just don't get bogged down in, if you have one bad day and you eat something you're not supposed to, that's okay. Start over the next day. Just, in the beginning you're going to lose weight no matter what, but when you get to where we are, it becomes harder just like it was before. So it's like I said, it's a lifelong journey, and it just continues. But for me, it's really been worth everything. And my journey in life continues to get better, really, day by day. And I just want to thank you for asking me. It's been fun.
Oh, thank you so much for coming, and I hope that I hope that you can come on again and join in with us. We decided to have a once a month BBTV hangout, and we have your invitation to come on and join in the conversation and share. It's just
Okay.
kind of going to be us hanging out, talking about stuff. And I know the holidays are coming. Before we close, do you have any holiday plans? I mean, it's Christmas time, so are you going to be doing anything special for Christmas?
Well, I may be having wrist surgery, so that's not too
Oh.
exciting.
You have
I
carpal
may
tunnel?
No, well, they think I have it. That's another long story. They think I have a TFCC tear in here, so I'm going to a specialist in Birmingham next week, and I'll find out. But I long story short, the people that I care for, both of their spouses died. He's 87, she's 85, and they married each other 12 years ago. They knew each other in high school. So they both have, he has two children, she has two children, and they all pretty much live away. So I cook Thanksgiving for everybody here. Christmas, I'll probably actually work Christmas Day, but I'm going to take some time for me after Christmas. So my plans right now are between Christmas and New Year's to do something. Plus, I turn 60 next year, so I'm planning to do, I don't know, come to California, go on a cruise. I don't know, do something big for my 60th birthday in August.
Yeah, well, if you come to California, you better visit me.
Okay.
Or I can drive to you wherever you go, even if it's to the beach, because I love the beach. But I just want to say thank you so much, Carla, for donating your time. I know it's a little late over there. Thank you so much, just seriously, for coming on and sharing your story. And I just want to say I hope I didn't ask any questions that were, you know, too imposing, because that was not my intention. I worry about that sometimes when I'm like thinking in my head and I ask the questions. So just, you know, thank you so much. We will see you guys next Wednesday with Lauren Losing. We'll be on our show next Wednesday. So we thank you guys so much for taking the time. We apologize that we were late. We had some technical difficulties. We couldn't get Carla on, so she had to use her phone. But thank you so much, you guys. We will see you next Wednesday. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.